Today, big spending bills are making their way through Congress as we speak. We look at how debt and deficits could affect your retirement plans. Amazon is to start paying customers if they get injured by products they bought on the platform, even if it was from a third-party seller. But the e-commerce giant says that doesn't mean it accepts liability. And soon you can buy your movie tickets with Bitcoin. AMC is planning to allow the payment using the cryptocurrency by the end of this year. That and much more coming up on NTD Business. Good evening. Great to have you with us. I'm Paul Graney. U.S. productivity isn't keeping up with the economic recovery, according to a top hedge fund manager. Daniel Lacaille at Tressis says, given that GDP is up about 6%, U.S. productivity growth should be at least 5%. But today's Labor Department numbers showed it only increased 2.3%. Productivity is the volume of goods produced per hour worked. And the rate is slowing. It was 4.3% in the first quarter. Lacaille blames incentivizing low productivity sectors with low rates and high debt for the overall drop-off. This can delay the natural market process of new, more efficient companies replacing less productive ones. Companies also had to pay workers 1% more per unit produced in the second quarter. Productivity increased, but not as fast as wages paid. And then another indication the economic recovery may not be as hot as we think. Small business optimism is falling. Labor shortages are a big issue. The National Federation of Independent Businesses released its July numbers today. Its optimism index fell 2.8 points, almost erasing all of June's gain. Small business owners are still finding it hard to find qualified workers. An earlier report from the group says about half of owners reported that job openings that couldn't be filled. That's a 48-year record high. Owners are also saying supply chain disruptions are impacting their business. They also flagged inflation as a worry. 44% are planning to increase prices in the next 3 months. That's the same as June, which was a record high number. But despite the price increases we're seeing across the board, really, the Senate just passed the $1.2 trillion infrastructure package. The vote was 69-30. Now it'll go to the House, where they will debate it and vote on it late September. That's after their summer break. NTD's Jessica Beatty has more.
On this vote,
the Senate voted Tuesday to pass the $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill after months of talks. The bill includes some $550 billion in new spending on more traditional infrastructure.
It has taken quite a long time, and there have been detours and everything else, but this will do a whole lot of good for America.
30 senators voted against the bill. Texas Senator John Cornyn says he can't support it after reviewing the Congressional Budget Office's estimate that the bill will increase the federal deficit by $250 billion. Senate Democrats moving on to the next phase right away, debating the $3.5 trillion budget resolution dubbed Human Infrastructure. It's set to include home and child care, free community college, universal pre-K, paid leave, and even a pathway to citizenship for certain illegal immigrants.
On our side of the aisle, we know we need both tracks. One dealing with traditional infrastructure, one dealing with climate and the problems American families face.
Democrats want to pass the larger bill through reconciliation. That means theoretically they could pass it without any Republican support if all Democrats vote in its favor. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell warning that the GOP won't raise the national debt ceiling if there's no Republican input.
They won't let Republicans have any say in this monstrosity, but they want our help raising their credit card to make it happen.
Republican Senator Rick Scott says he's worried that all this spending will lead to more inflation and saddle Americans with an overwhelming amount of debt.
I mean, our government has just ruined the ability for people without a lot of money to survive.
It's also raising concerns among some Democrats, including Arizona Senator Kristen Sinema. She previously said she doesn't back the bill as it stands now, but added that she would negotiate on the issue. The smaller bill now goes to the House. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has said the bipartisan bill will go nowhere until the Senate passes the larger bill. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
Between this bill and the other $3.5 trillion bill, U.S. deficits will increase steadily and substantially over the next 10 years. So what does that mean for your retirement plan or pension? Does public debt affect your federal or non-federal nest egg? Ask Lance Roberts. He helps manage over $1 billion worth of assets at RIA Advisors.
Interesting enough, it actually affects everybody's pension plans because pension plans are tied to interest rates. And if interest rates rise, the value of the pension falls. There's a discount value based upon the pension, right? So your pension payout will adjust whether according to either the rise or fall in interest rates. So, you know, the big risk ultimately down the road is that something occurs and we have a quote unquote a debt crisis of some sort that causes interest rates to jump markedly. Interest rates are a function of supply and demand, and right now there's plenty of demand for U.S. Treasuries, which keeps interest rates very low. But if something would occur down the road because we have too much debt or whatever the reasoning is, that could cause interest rates to rise sharply. And that's one of the big fears of, you know, bond bears ultimately down the road, which is that you do get this very sharp rise in interest rates and the 30-year tailwind behind bonds is going to go away.
And so these government policies or central bank policies that we're seeing at the moment with quantitative easing or high deficits or anything, bar inflation, they don't really have much of a negative impact on pension plans. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, they don't actually. You know, the biggest impact to pension plans are returns and contributions. That's what drives a retirement plan. The other problem is that it's about, and again, this goes back to returns, but it's about the risk that a lot of these pension plans are undertaking. They've got a lot of money invested in equity markets, and so far the equity markets have done great over the last 11, 12 years. But if we ever do get into another 30 or 40% decline that sticks for a bit, it's going to become problematic on the withdrawal rates. But again, debts and deficits and QE programs, those are more, you know, centric to specifically the economy and the drag that it creates on economic growth. We have a very high standard of living relative to wage growth that we get. We've got rising inflationary pressures now because of a lot of the stimulus programs that's outstripping the cost of living. So those things are the things that really impact people more than pensions.
And you mentioned the kind of risk that these plans and funds are having to take to make up for these shortfalls. Do you feel that they'll be able to get to the other end of the boomers retiring? Or you think it's possible a debt crisis could happen in between?
Well, given the time horizon that boomers have until they actually retire. So again, they're retiring now, but they're going to live a very long time. So when you're talking ranges of 10, 20, 30 years, no, something's going to happen between now and then. You know, we've had a dot-com crisis. We've had a housing crisis. The bubble that we're in now will eventually resolve itself into some type of crisis, no matter what it is. It'll be credit related, but that's going to happen within the next 10 to 20 years. And so we're going to have another 50% decline. And that's just a function of math. It's a function of time. It's a function of valuations. That's an inevitable. What we say is reversions to the mean. Jack Bogle, from the famous Vanguard CEO and entrepreneur, He said, look, he says, valuations are a problem and reversions are to the mean are iron law. It happens. I mean, this is something you don't resolve. And we have one of the greatest deviations from long-term means right now ever on record. So yes, it's going to happen, and it's going to devastate pension funds. It's going to devastate pensions, and it's going to put a lot of people behind the curve once again.
And it's unavoidable at this point. It's just something we're going to encounter, right?
Well, we created the problem. It's kind of like losing weight. You didn't get fat overnight, so it takes a long time to lose the weight. We've created this bubble over the last 12 years because of aggressive monetary policies, not letting recessions happen as we should. We've tried to forestall all of the negative consequences of an economic reset instead of letting those things happen and cleanse the system and allow things to reset themselves. We've exacerbated the problem by not letting those problems heal. So we've just really created a very obese market at this point that when it resolves itself is going to be in a much greater magnitude than what would have normally happened if we would have allowed recessions to occur in 2015 when we had a manufacturing recession, in 2020. If we would have let that recession kind of run its course, we'd be much better off today.
On Wall Street, mostly higher on Tuesday, Dow Jones closing at yet another record high. It rose 163 points, less than 0.5%. S&P 500 gained 4 points, or 0.1%. The Nasdaq dropped 72 points, but 0.5%. And movie theater chain AMC is planning to start accepting Bitcoin as a form of payment. The company said in an earnings call it's rolling out technology that will allow customers to buy tickets and concessions using the cryptocurrency online. Right now, cryptocurrencies are mostly seen as investment vehicles rather than actual currencies to pay for goods and services, but that could change with AMC's move. It also reported better than expected results. Moviegoers returning to theaters, lifting its revenue. Its CEO says U.S. ticket revenue in the third quarter is on track to reach 45% of the same quarter in 2019. Not bad considering. And Amazon says it will pay you up to $1,000 if you were injured by faulty products you bought from its platform. That's even if it's from a third-party seller. NTD Lee has the details.
Amazon says it will pay up to $1,000 to customers who bought faulty products and got injured. It previously came under fire for selling faulty and dangerous products, but up until now, Amazon was mostly left out of the process when consumers filed for complaint. 60% of sales on Amazon's marketplace are from third-party vendors, and the company argued in court that it couldn't be held liable for those. But last year, a customer who bought a faulty battery for her laptop filed a lawsuit after it exploded. She suffered severe burns and damages inside her house. A court in California ruled that Amazon was liable, setting a precedent case for future plaintiffs to point to. Now, Amazon is updating its policies. The e-commerce giant says it will respond to complaints themselves if the seller doesn't. Amazon will then directly address the concern and separately pursue the seller. It will also bear the costs but sets a cap of $1,000. Amazon says that claims under $1,000 account for more than 80% of cases. The policy will start next month, and Amazon says it will assess the claims using independent insurance fraud experts and its own fraud detection systems. Evelyn Lee, NTD News.
And he's switching to work from home permanently. You might want to think twice if you work at Google. According to a company pay calculator, Google's remote employees, especially those who commuted from long distances, could experience pay cuts without changing their address. For example, an employee who works from home full-time in Stamford, Connecticut, about an hour away from Google's office in New York City, would be paid 15% less if they worked at home. By contrast, a colleague from the same office living in New York City would see no pay cut even if they also worked from home. The Google spokesman didn't specifically address the issue in Stamford, but it said the company won't change an employee's salary if they live in the city where the office is located. Google said pay will differ from city to city and state to state. And the world's largest pizza company is giving away millions of dollars worth of free food. Domino says it's promoting its honest and upfront delivery services, unlike its food delivery rivals such as DoorDash and Uber Eats, who Domino say may charge hidden fees. NTD's Phil Zhou has the story.
Domino's Pizza is surprising customers with free food.
Hey, you! Domino's is giving away $15 million in supplies free. Yes.
You can even get chocolate cake, cheesy bread, and all types of pizza. Customers are tweeting the hashtag #FreezeNotFees on Twitter to boycott service fees from food delivery apps like DoorDash and Uber Eats. One tweet said, "Always extra fees with these apps," showing a service fee and a California driver benefits fee, which is on top of taxes, delivery charges, and tips. Another food delivery service customer had the same experience. She ordered an Italian icy in New York for $10, but after tacking on a small order fee and service fee on top of taxes, delivery charge, and tips, she said, "I paid twice as much in fees as I did for my meal." Domino's CEO said food delivery apps are the company's biggest competition. The pizza chain says it's relying on its own delivery network instead. Customers have a 1 in 14 chance to win a free item when they order from Domino's. The promotion ends November 21st. Phil Zhou, NTD News.
But Domino's is having some problems itself. The company says delivery times have slipped a whole minute or two because of staff shortages. It says it's raising wages and hopes to attract more workers. Don't worry. And chemicals giant Bayer has lost its latest court appeal concerning a weed killer cancer case. Yesterday, a California appeals court upheld an $86 million decision against the company. Bayer owns Monsanto, which manufactures Roundup. A California couple sued, saying the weed killer caused their cancer, and a jury found the company responsible in the case in 2019. Bayer has unsuccessfully appealed the case 3 times. We don't know if it will take the case to the Supreme Court this time, but it said it will petition the court justices to review a similar case involving a different user of the weed killer. And it's official. Tesla is delaying production of its Cybertruck until next year. The automaker posted an alert for customers on its website today. The alert reads, quote, "You will be able to complete your configuration as production nears in 2022. CEO Elon Musk hinted at the possible delay last month. He pointed to shortages of computer chips, battery cells, and global supply chain challenges. Musk said Tesla is also pushing back plans for a fully electric semi-tractor vehicle. And in the company's 2022 impact report, it announced that it wants to cover its Nevada Gigafactory in solar panels by the same year in 2022. However, it seems to be missing its initial goal of getting 70 megawatt capacity. NTD's Colin Fredrickson explains.
Tesla wants to completely cover its Nevada Gigafactory with solar panels by the end of 2022. In the company's 2020 impact report, Tesla says, to date we have installed solar panels with a capacity of 3,200 kilowatts. This installation will grow to about 24,000 kilowatts, the whole roof of the current building structure, by the end of next year. This will make it the largest rooftop solar installation in the U.S. Tesla disclosed plans for the giant solar array back in 2017, declaring it would have a capacity of 70,000 kilowatts, far greater than the 24,000 kilowatt capacity it's aiming for. The 2020 impact report didn't mention the initial 70,000 kilowatt goal. Financial analyst Gordon Johnson of GLJ Research has doubts. When asked if he thinks Tesla will hit the goal, he responded,
"No." And I say that, just using history as a precursor. I mean, this is a company that perpetually makes promises and perpetually misses those promises. I mean, full self-drive does not exist, yet they've been selling it since 2016.
The unfinished factory is being built in phases so that Tesla can begin manufacturing immediately inside the finished sections and continue to expand thereafter. Tesla's website says the Nevada Gigafactory currently produces Model 3 electric motors and battery packs, in addition to Tesla's energy storage products, Powerwall and PowerPack. The 2020 impact report also says they're installing solar panels at their Fremont factory, Lathrop factory, and Gigafactory, New York. Colin Fredrickson, NTD News.
And Japan's SoftBank is holding off investing in China. It wants to wait for the regime's clampdown against its tech firms to play out, according to the SoftBank's chief executive. Earlier in May, SoftBank posted record annual profit. Part of that came from its investment arm Vision Fund's exposure in Chinese tech firms like ride-hailing firm Didi and Uber for truck startup Full Truck Alliance. Those companies listed in New York, but the regime's suppression of its tech sector has hampered valuations, underscoring SoftBank's China risk. Investment in China makes up about a quarter of its fund's portfolio. The group's also seeking to cut dependence on its largest asset, a stake in Chinese e-commerce giant Alibaba. SoftBank shares have slipped a third from 2-decade highs in March. It also dumped shares in some U.S. tech giants like Facebook, Microsoft, and Alphabet, even Netflix. It's according to its latest financial filings released today. And a Chinese court upholds a Canadian man's death sentence for drug smuggling. The case is seen as linked to another case in Canada involving Chinese telecom company Huawei. Some think the Chinese regime is using the case to send a message to Canada. The Canadian man was arrested in China in 2014 for drug smuggling and initially sentenced to 15 years in jail. He appealed, but a Chinese court then decided to sentence him to death. It happened a month after CFO of Huawei was arrested in Canada. The Canadian ambassador to China says it was no coincidence. The court upheld the death sentence Tuesday while lawyers for the Huawei CFO make a final push to prevent her from being extradited to the United States. The Chinese regime has warned of unspecified consequences if the CFO is not released. And still to come this evening. Panera Bread recalls some ready-made soup. Several consumers reporting an extra ingredient that's not supposed to be there. And European scientists create materials that can withstand the harsh environment of low Earth orbit. One lightweight polymer appears promising, so we have that and more after this short break. Welcome back. More than 6,300 pounds of Panera Bread's ready-to-eat chicken tortilla soup have been recalled. The 16-ounce containers may have been contaminated with pieces of gloves. The USDA says soup maker Blunt Fine Foods received several consumer complaints about pieces of gray glove in the product. No reports of illnesses, though. The recalled soup was made on July 1st and has a use-by date of September 9th. Customers who bought it are being told to throw it away or return it to the store. And since the pandemic, thousands of New York City restaurants have extended their businesses to outdoor dining. But in Koreatown, many of the restaurants are located upstairs without the option to serve as outdoor dining. Now, one outdoor dining location is helping these restaurants to stay afloat. NTD's Jason Perry has the story.
The Regional Plan Association, or RPA, hosted the first ever Alfresco Awards that were given to the best outdoor dining spaces and open streets in New York City.
And so we really wanted to recognize the hard work of businesses, community groups across the city over the past year to bring people out, to allow them to do outdoor dining, to allow them to play on the street. And so that's why we're hosting the Alfresco Awards.
One of the award winners was the owner of Made in Korea, Edward Song. We spoke to Richie Yao, the lead architect who helped design Made in Korea. He explained that many restaurants in Koreatown were not able to adapt to outdoor dining.
A lot of restaurants on the second, third, fourth, fifth floor, and when open streets opened up, those restaurants didn't have the opportunity to have outdoor dining.
Edward Song wanted to do something to help the upstairs restaurants, so we created Made in Korea. The chief architect of Made in Korea said he wanted to design the outdoor dining location to be like a futuristic jungle. He explained that when you scan the QR code on the table, you will have access to the menus of different restaurants in the area.
You know, sometimes when you go to a restaurant, someone says, oh, I want fries, but I also want Chinese food, right? The idea here is within a family setting, if someone wants this type of food, they can order from that restaurant, and they could also order another type of food from a participating restaurant.
Made in Korea is normally open Thursday through Saturday, and they don't have a kitchen, but they're expanding their menu options by coordinating with even more restaurants in the area. Jason Perry, NTD News, New York.
And European scientists are creating new, stronger materials for a new generation of spacecraft. They'll be attached to a module on the International Space Station where researchers can measure in real time how they age. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports.
Low Earth orbit is a hostile environment. Any craft up here face potential collisions from space junk and meteoroids. Traveling at 17,000 miles per hour as they are pelted by radiation, and temperatures which vary from negative 240 degrees to more than 300 degrees Fahrenheit.
When you're sending something like a composite into space, it's an incredibly harsh environment. You've got, UV radiation hitting it, you've got all sorts of dust and particles, and when they react to the surface of the composite, they can have unexpected consequences.
Now the European Space Agency is asking scientists to create new materials, polymers which can withstand the environment up there.
And so part of doing this program is to test this combination of resin and fiber to see what can work in that environment and give us the kind of durability and performance that we're looking for.
The scientists know that every pound counts. More weight means more fuel is needed to get a rocket into orbit. But our reliance on satellites for navigation and smartphones means vast amounts of debris in low Earth orbit. So new materials that are half the weight and age less quickly are needed.
If you can send up your resin and your fiber and actually start manufacturing those composite structures in space, it opens up a world of possibilities of building very large, complex structures that are very durable, strong, and lightweight. And then you're not constrained by the actual launch vehicle payload bay.
Researchers here say they've created a material which effectively heals itself. In the longer term, the scientists are looking to build new spacecraft from raw materials out in space. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
As the latest business updates for today, you can still catch NTD Evening News with Stephanie Cox. That starts at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. For NTD Business, that's all for today. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.